Behold, my glorious supporter, FreeWilliam, has asked me to discuss the Pareto Principle with you today because I, along with my research team, have discovered a new breakthrough in human psychology and socioeconomics relating to the Pareto Principle. Allow me to explain. The Pareto Principle, if you're not familiar, is the 80-20 rule, or the law of the vital few, that states that 80% of the wealth is held by 20% of the people, 80% of your bug reports come from 20% of your bugs, stuff like that, right? 80% of your comments, 20% of your viewers. In video games, 80% of people won't look up stuff about your game. They'll just play the game. Only 20% of people will go look it up. Stuff like that, right? It shows up all over the place. What's weird is that originally this was designed just as a way to demonstrate distribution of wealth and quality control was the original field it was in. But it's weird because it comes up everywhere, as I just gave you a few examples of. It just shows up all over the place. Why? What's up with that? Why just so many things obey this 4-to-1 ratio, 80-20? What's going on? And as I explained at the top of the video, I and my research team have discovered the cause of the Pareto ratio, or whatever, but this phenomenon. And today, I'm very excited to present that to you. So, allow me to break down an example rather than just telling you the point. Let me break down an example, and I think you'll be able to understand a little better. Our researchers were interested in the ways in which so many of these Pareto moments in our human society don't seem to have much to do with each other, but they all have to do with humans. There's a human element. That is the common thread. And so we turned back to humans as the cause of essentially everything bad in the world and looked at wealth distribution, an original field where the Pareto Principle has been very accurate. So thinking about someone walking down the street, living their life, day to day, talking to their friends on the weekend, going to their 9-to-5 job. What makes someone more successful than someone else? Well, we found that on average, a person needs to see 4 people that are not very well off to convince themselves to become much better off. And then that person earns such an infinitely larger and completely unfairly larger amount of money than everybody else that the ratio just kind of works itself out. So you have, a few people earning minimum wage, and then once, Joe Average, but with some ambition in there, sees 4 of those people, he goes on to make $1 million, and then he makes so much more money than them that it ends up obeying this 80-20 ratio. We've all been rounding. The ratio doesn't really work, of course. And that's the cause of the economic imbalance. That's the reason, is essentially just humans seeing enough unsuccessful humans. And luckily, just 4 of every 5 humans just don't look at other people. And so what happens is that you get this nice balance where 1 out of every 5 people becomes overly ambitious and has no regard for human life and takes all the wealth and doesn't donate anything to charity, creating that Pareto ratio. Amazing, right? So we looked at other areas of society and it keeps working. So we've all been in a situation where, you and maybe someone a little special, you're hanging out, and your friend drops by, and it can be kind of nice. They have this idea of third wheeling. Ridiculous. We all know it's actually pretty nice because you get to show off your lovey-dovey times, and your friend gets to bounce off of the unique relationship between you and your partner, which definitely isn't uncomfortable for anyone at all. And if you're with another couple, then it's 4 people, or you may be with multiple partners, and up to 2 partners or 3 partners, or your couple and another couple, it's all good. When you get to that 5th person, statistically, it all falls apart. No way. 5 people is a crowd. We actually interviewed hundreds of thousands of people in relationships and scientifically proved that 5 people is the amount that is a crowd. So that two's company, three's a crowd thing, that's 4 people anyway. Ridiculous. That's a double date, you moron. 5 people. So if you have 80% of the people in a 5-person group, then 20% of 5 people would be a crowd. It's the Pareto Principle. I'm right. You're nitpicking and biased. I win. Bye-bye. Okay, folks, and let's take off the mask here. FreeWilliam asked me to come up with a bad ad hoc hypothesis, not to talk about the Pareto principle. A bad ad hoc hypothesis is there's this festival where they do these. And the idea is you present a very feasible idea that is completely untrue, but you try to present it in a way where it is feasible, and the comedy comes from showing little errors or loopholes or biases that kind of let you appreciate how good research works. And if you're listening carefully, you think, oh, wait, this is completely invalid. One of the things that's funny to me about this idea is that it's the kind of thing that I actually think this is sort of a dangerous thing when it's not all done with insiders. You know, doing it in a festival where everyone knows what's going on, that's good. But if you do this too much in the real world, it's bad because a lot of people just listen to this stuff. Like you start saying, oh, we have all me and my research team, and people are like, whoa, I'm listening to the information. Like people are way too impressionable. And so it's fun when you're in the context of, you know, people that understand. I doubt that most of you believed anything that I was saying, because my Parley series kind of already is this type of series. It's not full of bad ad hoc hypotheses, but it's a series where I'm often meant to discuss something that's a bit absurd anyway. You're not expecting it to be this statement of fact or anything, right? It's meant to be silly. And so this is Parley is a perfect fit for this kind of thing. The Pareto Principle, yeah. So it's weird that 80-20 ratio shows up everywhere. Yeah, it's definitely not because of any of the things that I said. One person needs to see 4 other people to become really ambitious, and yet somehow those 4 other people just don't look at other humans. That would make all 5 of them ambitious if they just saw other human beings ever. So yeah, no, that's not why at all. And of course the other relationships, I do think that 5 is a crowd, but that's not somehow an 80-20. There's nothing 80-20, but 80% of 5 people isn't the problem and 20%. But I want to briefly talk about this idea that video games have this ratio. This is really fascinating to me. It's twice. So in video game marketing and community management, the Pareto Principle is present kind of 2 nested ways. So 80% of the people will only play your game. They won't engage with anything else with your game. 20% of the people will go look stuff up. They might be in an online community. And then the Pareto Principle repeats itself with those 20% of people. 80% of the people that look something up about your game won't engage in a community. They're just, this is not a problem, but it was sometimes called leechers. Whereas only 5% of the total, the 20% of your 20%, will make some post or something there, right? And that ratio is really interesting because it makes you think about, you know, if you talk about a game, first of all, how much does that ratio differ, right? So you look at a game like Warframe, I'd be very interested to know, in a game where a lot of people say you basically have to look stuff up, and a lot of people's arguments defending Warframe for being so confusing and oblique hinge on the idea that people do look stuff up and engage in the community. And at least according to this principle, that is not true. Like, most people don't. Your game needs to stand on its own 2 feet for most people. Can you think of a game that would be fine if only 20% of people played it? Didn't think so. So although not for nothing, Prime Access probably means 20% of the players are giving them 80% of the money, probably more than 80% of the money, but there you go. But in fact, I've been holding out on you folks because I actually know the real reason behind this nested 80-20, 80-20, right? Well, it's because 80% of people have Cherry MX Blue switches that are super loud, and typing in a group setting is way too noisy and upsets their roommates and stuff. So when they're not in their gaming time, which every apartment has scheduled, of course, quiet hours start at 10 p.m. Gaming time is from 9 to 10. Everybody knows this. That's when you can type. And so after that, they've played their game, but they don't have time to type on their loud Cherry MX Blues that are super obnoxious and contribute to those forums. Now, 20% of people, 20% of people spend that gaming time. They spend 20% of their gaming time, it's the Pareto Principle again, typing on online forums rather than playing the game. You hear about how people spend a lot of their time just complaining about a game rather than actually playing it. It's true. It's the Pareto Principle. In fact, my personal experience is that a lot of people spend 80% of the time complaining about the game and 20% of the time playing it. No, I'm just kidding. Of course, none of this is real. Also, 5%, 20%, 5% is not, that's 25%, not 20%. 20% and 5% is not an 80-20 ratio. Although if we could just round it down to 4%, then we'd be good to go.